Welcome to Look Movie Recaps. Today, I will discuss a film called Colombiana. Imagine witnessing the death of your beloved parents and then run away to save your own life because you next. Stay on and see how it ended. The story begins in 1992 in Colombia's capital city of Bogotá. At that time, a man by the name of Fabio, a colleague of drug baron Don Luis, was observed having a serious talk. Don Luis and Fabio talk about flash drives that hold important information about their drug business. After handing over the flash drive, Fabio says to him that he wants to give up his life of crime so he could be an ordinary man with a happy family. He assures him that he has no left copy of the content on the flash drive. Naturally, Don Luis was upset by Fabio's choice. Don Luis did not trust Fabio's statement that he did not have a copy of the data from the information in the flash drive, so after Fabio left, he gave Marco the order to kill Fabio and his family. Then Fabio hurried home, knowing exactly what is going to happen to him. After getting home, he gives his daughter Cataleya, who is 9 years old, a flash drive that is the exact copy of what he just gave to Don Luis. He also provides Cataleya with the address of a person in Chicago who would take care of her in case they pass away. Shortly afterward, Don Luis's men raided Fabio's home. They kill all of Fabio's soldiers and both Fabio and his wife in front of the motionless Cataleya. Then Marco went over to Cataleya and asks her where the flash drive with a copy of the information on Don Luis Drug Company was. However, Cataleya fearlessly chops Marco's hand and takes off from there. Based on her escape from Don Luis's men, Cataleya seems to have received training and guidance from her father on how to recognize potential dangers to her life. Following her successful escape from Don Luis's men, Cataleya proceeded to the U.S. Embassy. She presented the embassy employees the flash drive her father had given her, and as a result, she was ultimately allowed access into the country. Cataleya is attempting to locate a person in Chicago that her late father had informed her about, despite attempts by American authorities to place her in the foster care system. At last, Cataleya reached Chicago and reached a location. It turns out that Emilio, the man she is searching for, is actually her uncle. Emilio felt happy and relieved upon meeting his niece. After that, the man brought Cataleya to his home, where her grandma welcomed her home after an extended absence. Emilio registered Cataleya at a neighboring school the following day. Cataleya, however, declined and requested that her uncle teach her how to be an assassin instead. Emilio consented to train the little girl, but only under the strict requirement that she complete her education in order to be a skilled assassin. 2 policemen are seen eating lunch in the car 15 years later. Not long later, a woman who was drunk and driving struck their car. On a closer look, it is Cataleya. She is shortly taken into custody and brought to the police station. She is so wasted so the police had a hard time questioning her. They ultimately placed her in a holding cell so they could question her the following day. Meanwhile, the police arrived with a prisoner named Gennaro, who would be placed under temporary custody at the police station pending the outcome of his legal proceedings. However, Cataleya, who had just faked drunkenness to deceive the authorities and secure her own custody, was preparing to execute her plan. She was able to open her cell door and then sneak out of the bathroom through the air duct, where she knocked out one of the security guards. Next, Cataleya goes to Gennaro's custody cell and ends his life. Cataleya painted her autograph on Gennaro's body in the shape of a Cataleya flower, then hurried back to her cell. She returned to her cell to establish her alibi in time to avoid the patrolling police officers from approaching her cell. Cataleya was made available the next day. James Ross, an FBI agent, was tasked with looking into Gennaro's death. In previous years, Ross has looked into over 20 murder cases where the killer painted a painting of Cataleya flowers on the bodies of their victims as their signature. It appears that Cataleya has developed into a skilled assassin. Emilio served as the middleman who gave her the job. Cataleya leaves her signature, a painting of her flowers, with each murder in an attempt to draw Don Luis notice and exact revenge on him. After that, the scene changes to represent a CIA operative named Richard visiting Don Luis at his hiding place and telling him about Cataleya's string of murders, trying to warn him. However, Emilio arrives in Cataleya to offer her a new job contract, and it is Wugard, a guy, who is the target of her assassination. When Emilio eventually comes to understand of Cataleya's plans and that she has been pursuing those associated with Don Luis, he begs her to cease fire in order to protect her family and herself. However, Cataleya disagrees and is determined about carrying out her retaliation. Following that, Cataleya spends the night with her boyfriend Danny, keeping her real identity a secret from him by going under the alias Jennifer. Danny wants to paint Cataleya as the subject of his painting. The criminal leader Wugard is then shown in the scene at his home, which has a shark-filled pond. Cataleya murders all of Wugard's soldiers that night after breaking into his home. However, she did not immediately kill Wugard. She uses a flower to attract Wugard into the shark pond after sketching the Cataleya flower on his torso. Cataleya appears and shoots Wugard in the leg when he is right above the water gathering the flower. The moment the blood spattered on the surface, the sharks noticed and grabbed hold of him, allowing them to feast on his body. The following day, Agent Ross appeared to uncover a silver lining in the Gennaro murder case and indicated that Cataleya, who had been brought to the police station intoxicated, was frequently covering her face from the security cameras. Meanwhile, Danny meets a friend at a coffee shop and shows him a picture he shot of Cataleya while she was asleep. The man decided, out of curiosity, to submit the photo to one of his friends who works with the police so they could run a background check on Cataleya. While all of this is going on, Agent Ross, who is tasked with finding the murderer responsible for over 20 unsolved killings, finds a fresh lead in a picture of Cataleya that Danny's friend sends him. The police located Cataleya's locations right away by accessing Danny's mobile. Agent Ross gave his men the order to arrest Cataleya after looking up her past right away. Alert as ever, Cataleya scrambled to get away as soon as she heard that FBI troops were encircling the apartment complex. With her revolver in hand, Cataleya ran from the room through the air vent. Meanwhile, Don Luis gave Marco the order to kill Cataleya right away after learning that she was still alive. After reaching the United States, Marco and a few of his men located Emilio but were unable to locate Cataleya. Marco instantly killed Emilio and Cataleya's grandmother without giving it any thought. When Cataleya tries to contact her uncle in order to flee the police, she is shocked to learn that Don Luis' men killed Emilio and her family. Then, overcome with anger and sorrow, she locates Agent Ross and pays him a visit at his house. In a desperate move, Cataleya threatens Agent Ross, saying that if he doesn't assist her, she will kill his wife and kids. Then Cataleya demands him call CIA operative Richard, whom she knows has shielded Don Luis from arrest in return for his assistance to U.S. authorities. Agent Ross was forced to meet Richard at his office per Cataleya's request. Cataleya steps in and threatens Don Luis's and his family's safety after Richard declines to reveal the whereabouts of the man. At last, Richard felt compelled to tell Cataleya where Don Luis was. When she received the information she needed, Cataleya wasted no time in getting ready and taking off for Colombia to exact revenge on Don Luis for killing her family. As this was going on, Don Luis and his men started getting ready for the drug lord's rescue attempt, expecting Cataleya to launch a counterattack. But while Don Luis and his soldiers were coming up with a strategy, Cataleya had ambushed their base first. Don Luis was instantly placed in a secluded room, but Cataleya quickly killed every one of his men. At last, Cataleya faced the man who had killed her entire family, Marco. After a bloody struggle between the two of them, Cataleya murders Marco. Don Luis hurriedly ran from his hiding spot, believing it to be secure. The man promised that Cataleya would pay for everything. After that, Don Luis fled the area in a vehicle. However, he receives a call from Cataleya while on the way. The view of his specially trained attack dogs in his escape vehicle startled Don Luis, who had assumed he had successfully escaped from Cataleya. The dogs attacked the drug lord and tore his corpse to pieces right away. As the movie comes to a close, we see Danny being questioned by Agent Ross about his relationship with Cataleya. After the FBI agent left for a short while, Cataleya called Danny and eventually told him who she was. Cataleya used a pay phone to give Danny a call before boarding the bus that would take her back to the US. The film ends. If you've watched this far, thank you. Subscribe to the channel and watch more of these recaps. Have a great day.